Hello, I'm Grady Johnson. I'm the group publisher of SC Biz News. Here in Charleston, we're the Charleston Regional Business Journal. In Greenville, we're GSA Business Report. In Columbia, we're the Columbia Regional Business Report. We also publish North Carolina Lawyers Weekly, South Carolina Lawyers Weekly, and the Mecklenburg Times. And welcome to the next edition of our Power Series. Normally these events are live, but as you all know, we're trying to do this remotely, and so we've taken this to a virtual studio. And these events couldn't be possible without the help of our sponsors. So you'll be hearing from the sponsors later with some sponsor messages, and you'll see their logos as we do the show. And should you need any goods or services, please give these sponsors an opportunity to earn your business. And now let's turn to our panel.
Like every other institution, you can earn a credential. You can get started on a career here, but we're concerned about so much more than that. We're concerned about your character. We're concerned about your calling to the things that matter and your commitment to Jesus Christ, so that when you go into this world in every sphere of influence, you can make a difference in the world because you have been called by God to do that. That's the kind of place that you've come to.
Hi, my name is Armin Asadi. I'm a managing partner with the Verizon Business Group. I lead an organization that works with small and medium businesses across the Carolinas. Specifically, our coastal South Carolina team has been working with business clients throughout the pandemic on assisting them with collaboration tools, increasing the communication effectiveness as people work remotely, helping them with potentially contactless transactions for their employees and for their customers to make it a safer environment, all under the goal of helping to lean operational costs wherever available to ultimately help you business owners and business drivers on growing revenues. If you'd like to learn more about any of the products and services and how Verizon can partner with you, please use the chat field. We appreciate the partnership and we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today.
I'm here with Mayor Tecklenburg from the city of Charleston. And welcome, Mayor. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Grady. Nice to be with you.
So let's just jump right into the questioning.
Sure.
It's been a challenging year, starting with here in 2020. Just give us just a broad overview. How's the city of Charleston?
Well, there are challenges out there this year. Obviously, I saw a little cartoon the other day with Doc Brown showing Marty how to use the DeLorean time machine, and he said, "Don't set it to 2020." You know, and it's sad in a way because this was our birthday year. Our 350th birthday for the city of Charleston.
Yeah, right.
And so we had all kinds of great festivities planned and concerts and gatherings, and we haven't been able to do those this year. So we'll try to make up for it next year whenever we get a vaccine that's working for this. So yeah, obviously there's been challenges, and I've been pleased with some aspects of it, but I'm very concerned right now with the numbers we're seeing for the coronavirus in Charleston County. Mm-hmm. You know, for the early part of it, when we shut down, we had the earliest stay-at-home and non-essential business order in the state. And more than flattening the curve, we never really even got a curve going in Charleston until then things opened up. And unfortunately, some folks hadn't taken it seriously that there really is, quote, a new normal until you get to either a vaccine or a workable treatment. And so our numbers started rising, and at this point Charleston County is the worst in the state of South Carolina in terms of total number of cases, and over the last few weeks in terms of the rise. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm wearing this mask, because we have to follow the 3 W's. Wear the mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands. Mm-hmm. Short of shutting down again, which I don't want to do, I don't think anybody wants to do, but we got to get this virus under control. We need to flatten the curve at this point. Otherwise, schools won't open on time. In fact, they announced yesterday they're going to wait till after Labor Day rather than start at the normal time. So we just need to flatten the curve at this point. Everybody really needs to pitch in, and that's the biggest challenge right now.
Well, I'm pleased that you're modeling the latest in face mask fashion for us today. So that's a great look.
This is the very, very simple.
Yes.
Simple math.
It's becoming the new status symbol, isn't it?
Uh,
I've seen some pretty interesting maths people have.
Absolutely.
Can you help us understand how this whole coronavirus thing is impacting revenues for the city of Charleston, and what are the implications there?
Right. We projected, originally we were a little over 40 million, but at this point we've revised that down. We think our annual impact this year will be about $37 million reduction in our income.
Ouch.
And so that's about 15% of our budget. Most of that is from the loss of hospitality accommodations taxes and parking revenues that actually add to our general fund during the year. So we've had some expenses, but compared to the revenue loss, they're pretty minimal so far, about $2 million worth of extra expenses. We can apply for reimbursement for those $2 million, but as of right now, we don't have any help to make up for our lost revenue. And that's unlike some of the other organizations and entities in the region. Like I serve on the Aviation Authority Board, and through the first or second CARES Act, they got 20 some odd million. CARTA got 17 or 18 million. But local government has not received any help through the CARES Act other than for that reimbursement ability. So we're really hoping that this next bill that'll come out of the Congress, I think in the next 3 to 4 weeks, will include for the first time some direct support for local governments under 500,000 in population.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that there was going to be part of the bill, but I'm glad to hear that.
Well, it's in the House version already. It goes to the Senate when they reconvene next week. And so I'm reaching out to Senator Scott and Senator Graham, please support some support for local governments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Unlike the Great Recession, this whole COVID-19 thing is a healthcare crisis with economic implications to it. Just crystal ball a little bit, and just what is your prediction on how the region's going to bounce back, and what are you thinking about?
Well, I always felt that Charleston was in a great position to, we're resilient, that we could recover quickly. I must say that the reports I've seen on hospitality recovery take a little bit of time, that after the recession in 2008, 2009, it took almost 2 years for the hospitality business to kind of fully recover. And they predict a similar thing will happen after we get a cure or a vaccine for COVID-19, that it will take a while. I mean, you see travel is restricted and all like that. So luckily, compared to the early 90s when the Navy base closed here, our economy in Charleston region is much more diversified than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And of course the logistics side is dependent on world trade, and it'll be down a bit, but the port seems to be holding its own pretty well. I think manufacturing will be back in place as soon as numbers go down. I was pleased to see, most of the manufacturing plants get going again. Mm-hmm. Certainly our medical profession and technology professions I think will recover quite well. So, the tourism leg will take a little while.
Yeah, yeah. Is the city doing anything with small, medium-sized businesses? Have you instituted any new programs? How are you working with businesses?
So we've worked through existing programs, awareness. We helped a lot of businesses get applications in for the PPP program. We helped support a loan program at the COG and through our local development corporation. Mostly it's been networking and making businesses aware where they can get resources.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Switching gears a little bit, just a month or so ago, the social unrest, due to social injustice and property damage and what have you. What have you and the city done or doing differently? And you personally, what have you learned?
Well, it's a nationwide and a global impact that occurred after George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis. Really, the wound, the scab over the wound of racism had been pulled off again, and you know, an awareness of racial injustice and disparities has really been heightened in our city and our country, really around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so Charleston is really in a unique position to be a leader, to help pave a way to deal with those disparities and make changes. And in fact, it's kind of ironic that we were subject to a terrible night on May 30th, because the city, you know, through its racial bias audit of the police department and other things that we've been actively engaged in the last years, I mean, we've been kind of a leader in dealing with racial inequities and disparities. Not to say we're perfect, and we got plenty of stuff to work on. I mean, even when we did the audit, there are disparities, racial disparities, mm-hmm. that exist in our policing of years past, and we're addressing those things. So I think we take this forward with a spirit of making this city and this country a better place in terms of living out our Pledge of Allegiance of liberty and justice for all people.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to fantasy land for just a moment. Let's pretend there isn't a coronavirus.
Oh.
You know, we were all working on lots of things here in the region. You know, transportation issues, et cetera. If not for the coronavirus, where would your focus be? What would you be? What do you wish you were working on? How about that?
Well, it's not that I wish that I'm working on it. We are working on it, and I'm really proud of the team at the City of Charleston, because we really haven't missed a beat in terms of working on drainage and flooding improvements, on traffic and highway improvements. Just at our City Council meeting this past Tuesday night, the report from Matt Fountain, our Director of Stormwater, I mean, it took him a half hour just to briefly mention all the stormwater projects that we're engaged in right now. We're rebuilding the low battery seawall. We just got extra funding through the STIB board to complete the Spring Fishburne drainage tunnel system. We're getting ready to restart up phase 2 of a big West Ashley drainage project. We're working with the county in areas of James Island, Johns Island, and West Ashley. So much is going on. Probably the news isn't getting out because, you know, of all these other things. And then in a similar fashion, at our Traffic and Transportation Committee, we just got approval on a number of sidewalk pedestrian improvements we've been seeking for a long time through the county and the DOT. And all those things have really kept going. All our approvals, our permit centers open. We've been issuing as many construction permits this year as we did last year. That's one sector of the economy that's really been able to keep going as well. So it's not that I wish we were working on those things, we really are.
Yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
You know, the last 4 months have been pretty tough. Have you changed how you operate as the leader of municipal government because of that?
Well, we have been in the process over the last few years of converting as much of our business ability online, and this gave us the opportunity to just complete all those initiatives. You can completely apply to build the biggest building in Charleston without having to come into the office anymore. All blueprints can be submitted online. All the reviews can be done. So we've kept every function of city government going, and going well, I think, despite the fact that our buildings were closed to person-to-person contact. We have reopened our permit center very safely, so that, and this happens mostly with smaller projects that folks do like to come in and check with staff and get approvals and permits. Mm-hmm. But really everything can be done online, and I think it's made us more efficient. We're all Zooming meetings, and you don't have to, you know, travel, and we've become even more productive through all of this.
Interesting. Just as a final question,
Yeah.
what's one thing you'd like your citizens and businesses to know right now?
Wear a mask. It's that simple. We've got to get this spike, this curve of this virus, these numbers down in order for schools to open. Number one, so we don't overwhelm our healthcare profession. And I don't know if you've been seeing the numbers in the last week. Roper has doubled their intake of COVID-19 patients. Medical University is way up from where they were a month ago. And as Dr. Cole says, if we continue in the direction we are right now for the next 3 weeks, it's going to be inevitable. The healthcare system will be overwhelmed. It will impact people being able to get care for other medical needs. And it will force us into more extreme measures if we don't do the simple practices of wearing a mask, watching your distance, and washing your hands.
Appreciate it. Mayor Tecklenburg, thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And this is something I've always wanted to say. We'll be back after a word from our sponsors.
With one of the largest networks in the country, and a network of data centers, routes, and multiple points of presence, Comcast can deliver fast speeds and performance. To provide secure connections to the cloud, Comcast Business can connect you to over 600 data centers, as well as multiple major public cloud on-ramps across the country, which serve the Comcast footprint. In today's world, if you can't connect, you can't do business. Do both. Find out more at comcastbusiness.com/Ethernet Solutions.
I'm Barry Whalen, president of HLA Incorporated. HLA just celebrated 34 years in business and is experienced in civil engineering, surveying, wetland permitting, landscape architecture, and permit coordination. These professional skills are used in a unique combination that produces high-quality services and resourceful solutions for site construction projects. For example, most undeveloped land in the Tri-County has wetlands, grand trees, drainage issues, or zoning deficiencies that make it hard to get site construction approvals or create a higher value development. HLA has a talented combination of experienced professionals that get the most out of your site design by integrating progressive land planning with wetland permitting and smart drainage solutions, producing superior results. Experience matters, and we have it because we are the site experts.
I'm here with Mayor Habib from the city of Goose Creek. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
We'll jump right into questions. The good thing about having the mayors is we don't have to do any bios. Everybody knows you. So we've had a challenging 2020, and just the big question right now is, how's the city of Goose Creek? How are you guys holding out?
We're good. We don't, we're a little different organization, a little different municipality than some of them around here, and our reliance on our revenue is not reliant on some of the things that Charleston's revenue is reliant on, for example, or the island communities and the like. So from a revenue standpoint, the work we've done trying to create diverse revenue streams in the last few years has really paid off. We have fund balance. We have money, undesignated fund balance. So we have a little more money than we thought we were going to have. Our projections for next year are, while certainly not the growth that we have seen, obviously, I don't know that we project any real losses between this year and next. We're going to be very conservative, obviously, with our municipal budget, and we're about to start that process now. But on a financial standpoint, we're very good. On a COVID-19 related standpoint, we have instituted a mask rule in the city of Goose Creek, wanting folks to wear masks inside buildings when they can't be socially distanced from folks. We are seeing a very steady climb in positive cases in the 29445 and the 29486 zip codes that the city of Goose Creek sort of encompasses parts of both of those. The Roper Berkeley Hospital has been a huge impact on our community, but all of their ICU beds right now are committed to COVID-19 patients. So we're coming through that. There's, a lot of aches and pains as we work with those issues. But as a municipality, our community, we're a very family-oriented place, and we're doing just fine.
That's good. That's good to hear that revenues are impacted, because the other mayors were, they're having to deal with quite a bit of.
Well, obviously, we have worked very hard on, like I said before, creating some diverse revenue and creating commercial growth to match the residential growth that's obviously happening in the city of Goose Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Goose Creek is now nearly 45,000 people.
It's amazing.
We're the 8th largest city in South Carolina. A lot of people don't really recognize that. And that's, again, residential growth has been tremendous. We have worked very hard to get our commercial growth to match that. And it's coming, and it is already started happening, and it continues to grow. So we've had growth the last couple of years in our commercial revenue streams, and again we still see we have some projects in the works right now that we are very confident that will come through to create employment opportunities in the city and more diverse revenue into the city. But we don't rely on tourism, like Charleston or the barrier or the island communities or the like. Our economy is based on serving the people that live in and around our city. And when we are trying to add businesses and retail entities and industrial entities that serve the people that live in and around our cities, we're going to be less impacted, economically. And we've seen success with that. Like I said, we have some projects going on right now that we're very confident in that will bring in workforce opportunities in our community, and obviously create revenue for the municipality so that we can maintain low property taxes for our residents. So we're in a really good position because of the work we've done for economic development over the last several years, that we're pretty comfortable moving forward.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question. Just sort of crystal ball for us a little bit. What do you think the impacts of COVID-19 are going to be, midterm, kind of long term for the region? How are you thinking about that?
Well, our region deserves an awful lot of credit in the previous several years for the work that our region has done in economic development. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're hurting right now. Most of our tourism-related industries are in a lot of pain, and even some of our industrial industries have lost production and the like, based on the virus. But because of all the work, and not only because of all the work to develop, again, varied economic development projects that run the gamut from healthcare industry to manufacturing to technology and the like. The organizations like the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce and our work with them, and our work with the CRDA, and the region deserves a lot of credit for economic development. So our job opportunities continue to grow, and while again they've leveled off, I'm sure, during this virus. The opportunities are still coming in, and we're still talking to people about after the virus, what happens next. Charleston, South Carolina is the #1 tourist destination in the world. Our beaches are, very, very popular tourist destinations. Our restaurants are incredibly popular. When this is over, they'll all be there, and they will all still come back, and that tourism industry will come back, I believe, fairly strongly. I'm sure Mayor Tecklenburg and Mayor Summey and Mayor Haney believe the same thing, that they will come back very strongly relative to tourism. The region deserves credit for its very diverse efforts, for the efforts that it's made to create diverse economic development. And so there are a lot of job opportunities here now. So economically, our region is really, really strong. Berkeley County continues to grow. Volvo is not what it's going to be. Boeing is probably not even what it's going to be at some point. So again, we see those opportunities ahead of us, and City of Goose Creek is perfectly positioned, we believe, to take advantage of that economic growth with a corporate park, with available lots in Crowfield Plantation, with our project right now with establishing an electric utility to service Century Aluminum to bring 300 jobs back to Century Aluminum and bring all of that property into the city for future development. So I believe that we're going to come out of this very strong.
The idea of your own electricity is very unique, very interesting. Can you give us an update on that? How's that going?
Well, there are some legal obstacles that we all have to work through between the city of Goose Creek, Century Aluminum, Santee Cooper, the transmission of power and all those things. So those things are ongoing. We are continuing to work through those. We are very optimistic that in the end we have the path to provide electricity to them, to bring those 300 and 350 jobs back, put that second pot line up, have Century Aluminum impact our economy in the billion-dollar way that it does when it's at full capacity, and really shape the growth for the city of Goose Creek for the next 50 years. But we're still working on it, and there's a lot of legal things happening. Right
it's not unprecedented, but you're, I think, the first in 50 or more years to try to do something like this.
Well, it's the first in something like that. Yeah. Yes, a municipal electric utility has not been established in the state in quite some time.
I thought so.
But there are 21, I believe, is the number, municipal electric utilities in South Carolina. This is a very unique situation that came out of an idea that we wanted to bring those 350 jobs back, and how could we go about doing that? And then recognizing that the number one cost Century Aluminum has, more than its people, is power. That's just the nature of their business. There is power available on the open market that is significantly less than what they're required to pay now. And because of the state law, how things work, they cannot be a wholesale purchaser. They can only be a retail purchaser. Well, a municipal electric utility can be a wholesale purchaser. And again, we have plans to grow, provided all this happens, and we believe that it will. There's a lot of acreage on that property that we can put in a small industrial site. We hope maybe some of their customers would be willing to move closer to them. If people are aware of what happened out at Nucor when Nucor was built, several of Nucor's customers moved in right around the plant.
I wasn't aware of that.
So, we think that for whatever reason that didn't happen in the past, but we believe with the electric utility and our ability to provide power to the industry that may move in there, that we'll be able to move some of their customers in a little closer, and then, create some other retail development up and down Highway 176. Economic development has to be planned. It has to be, thoughtful. Residential development has to be planned and thoughtful, and we are doing a lot of that. We're right now in the middle of our 10-year comprehensive plan, and what we hope comes out of that plan is what we're going to look like for the next 25 to 50 years, including that property that Century Aluminum sits on. So, we're very excited about where we're going.
What do you think the population will be then, at the end of that?
Well, there are still I don't know, it's a good question. We're growing at about the rate, 2.5%, 3% a year.
Yeah.
I think the regional population growth over the last 25 years, it's funny, people talk that we've had explosive population growth. And there have been fits and spurts, but overall over the last 25 years, it's been about 2.2%.
Yeah.
So it's not been explosive. It's been steady and planned and, and actually successful. So we're going to grow because you have to. I explain to folks at times that until a municipal economy is based on something other than growth, then we have to have it.
Right.
All right. So, you either have to have growth or you have to raise taxes every year. That's just the way it works. Well, we don't like taxes, so we're going to have some growth. But if we go, 2.5 or 3% a year, and we grow, and we've got two really large housing developments going on right now in the city of Goose Creek. Brick Oak Plantation is probably still has 1,000 homes to build out.
Oh, wow. That's
a little bit of a guess there because it's been going on for quite some time. But Carnes Crossroads is in the city of Goose Creek, and Carnes Crossroads is a 3,000 to 4,000 home development over the next many years, and they've probably only built 400 or 500 homes to this point. So there's still 3,000 homes, give or take, to be built out in Carnes Crossroads, and then wherever else we can do that. The nice thing about the property that Century Aluminum sits on is I don't necessarily anticipate that being residential. I anticipate that being recreational, and maybe along the busy corridors we'll have commercial and retail and the like. But you know, there's a lot of acreage there. The headwaters to the back river are on that property. That, you know, we would like our community to be able to take advantage of those recreational opportunities.
That's a surprise to me because I thought you were going to say industrial, but you said recreational.
You know, again, it's a lot of acres, right?
Yeah.
And so industrial can be on one side, and there's some room for some commercial and retail on another side. But you know, I feel like we can have about 2,000 or 2,500 acres right in the middle of all that property. That's just recreation.
Wow.
You know, it can be really shape our economy and our quality of life for years and years to come. Goose Creek is, you know, at one point was named the best place in South Carolina to raise a family. We still believe it is. You know, the factors that go into that sort of change,
Yeah.
we still believe it is. Goose Creek is a highly educated, highly diverse, high earning, and very young community. That's, you know, my elevator pitch when we talk about the city of Goose Creek is we are highly educated, highly diverse, high earning, and very young. Our median age is 33 years old. Our median income is higher than Somerville's. It's not quite as high as Mount Pleasant's, but their median age is 39. They're old in Mount Pleasant. We're very young in Goose Creek. So we are just a growing and very exciting community. And this project at Century Aluminum on that property, and that's going to be a real, you know, really shape our future for a long, long time.
That's really interesting. Just shifting gears a little bit with the civil unrest that was, you know, the region experienced a month or so ago, and you know, property damage down in the city of Charleston, et cetera. You know, what have you learned? What are you doing differently because of that?
Well, you know, that's very interesting. I had a conversation, and this is maybe blunt and it may get me in trouble, but I had a conversation with some folks the other day. We had an incident in the city of Goose Creek some time ago. It's been a while. And it wasn't really an incident. One of our officers noticed a car acting in a way that made them suspicious. They ended up, you know, investigating, following and pulling in behind that car and investigating what's going on. And as happens in 2020, the camera phones come out. And everybody was very upset. It turns out that the driver of the car was a black male and our officer was a white male. And as I explained to people that I understand why, I get why perception is driving, you know, how you view everything. I asked folks to explain to me how that situation ended. It ended by our officer recognizing, okay, thank you, sir, everything's good, got in his car, left. The person that he was talking to got in his car and left. So I had to ask folks, do you not want our police officers to investigate things that are suspicious or the like? And so we're going to continue to do that. So what have we done differently? Not a lot. We did have some protests in Goose Creek. I went out and spoke with each and every one of them, just to hear what they had to say, to communicate what our police department and our city leadership think and believe. We have a very close relationship with all of our churches in and around our community, with all of the other organizations and the like. One thing we did do and will continue to do is we started a discussion on race. We did it a couple of weeks ago out at New Life Christian Fellowship Church. Their pastor, Dexter Easley, is a friend, and he and I talked about let's start a series of conversations. So we started out there. My police chief came and we just listened and talked and had some conversations. And we're going to do that in another location here in the next month or so. And just continue to have dialogue. Nothing ever bad Well, I don't think too much bad can happen from folks talking to one another. And what I warned everybody about that conversation was, don't come here to get your feelings hurt. I don't care what you think or what side you think you may fall on. You have to come here and be willing to be really open and really honest with folks and honest with yourself. And so we had a really good conversation for about a couple of hours. And the interesting thing is that I was interested in how that conversation, or the folks that attended, is it was a really diverse population that came. The only disappointing thing, when I say diverse, I'm talking about racially, it was probably 50-50. I mean, it was a very mixed group of folks. The disappointing thing, though, and it was interesting because one of my son's classmates, my oldest son is 24, and one of his classmates at Stratford was there. And he graduated from college a couple of years ago, moved back in the area. He's an engineer and he's a young black male. And he came up to speak, and he talked about his disappointment was the same as my disappointment, which was he was the youngest person there and he was the only young person there. And so we've talked more with him about how do we engage more young people to come and have conversations. We had a couple of protests in Goose Creek. They were very small. I went out and talked with folks. Our police chief went out and talked with folks. One of the things is, do you have those issues here? We can talk about the city of Goose Creek. There's a much greater issue, obviously, out there. But we can talk about the city of Goose Creek and what the city of Goose Creek does. But to bring people in to just have a conversation, a real conversation about this, we found great success there, and we're going to continue to do that.
How have the last 4 months changed how you operate as a leader of a municipality?
I'm not sure that it has, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that I'm anything special. I'm certainly not. But what I have always tried to do is communicate at a pretty high level with folks. I have a Facebook presence, which most politicians are a lot smarter than me, and they do not have a Facebook presence. I have one because when I became mayor, I came in and I told every department head, I told every employee of the city, I met with every employee of the city of Goose Creek when I became mayor, and I told them all, including the department heads, that if you are in charge of your department and you have a communication problem in your department, you're the problem. All right? And then I hear, well, I have an open door policy. Well, how many people coming through that door? Well, none. Then you're the problem. So why do I have a Facebook presence? Because in 2020, you either communicate with people or you don't communicate with people. And you're going to communicate with people where they are. If you want to be a proactive communicator and leader in your community, you have to communicate with folks where they are. Well, there's 15 or 20,000 members of the Goose Creek residents page, right? Now, I probably do a little less on there now than I did a couple of years ago, but I'm still active. So I've still try very hard to communicate a lot with the people who live in the city of Goose Creek. So I don't know that has changed. What it has done, however, is make me step back. In my business and in government, we always self-evaluate. It's one of the big things that I talk about a lot with my employees and again, more with the folks at the city of Goose Creek, is to continuously self-evaluate. And so we stopped and we turned around and we said, all right, what are we doing? When the race issues came up, when issues of police brutality came up, we stopped and we turned around and said, what are we doing? How does our operation work? How do we go about what we do? And what I found out more than anything is we do a lot of things really good at the city of Goose Creek. We have de-escalation training. Our police chief brought that in, and she's been very proactive about de-escalation training. We have discussions on use of force, evaluations of use of force. We went back and looked at every complaint that the city of Goose Creek had in the last 2 years and only found 4 that even reached the level of an internal investigation, and they were not related to use of force. They were other issues. We are a CALEA accredited agency. And I knew that, but what I wanted to find out was, what does that mean for how we operate? That's a very significant thing, and I shared this information with our federal legislative delegation. But you know, they're talking. You see, on the federal level, they're talking a lot about law enforcement reform and the like. Well, one of the very simple things I believe they can do is assist organizations with going through the accreditation process. What I found interesting is in a CALEA accredited organization, the chokehold, for example, is never appropriate. The chokehold has not been appropriate in the city of Goose Creek for decades. And our chief of police has never worked in an organization where it was appropriate. Yet, Minneapolis just passed an ordinance outlawing the chokehold. Well, it's always been against policy in a CALEA accredited organization. So what does an accredited organization do? It means you do what you say you're going to do, and that you live by some standards. Is it the be all end all that's going to cure everything? No, but it gets you started. You know, it gets you started. And that, I think, is a very short thing that either at the state level or national level that we could do to encourage municipalities and sheriff's organizations to have some standards, to implement those, to practice what they say they do, and be able to move their organizations forward. At the very least, when you live and work by a group of standards, when things do happen, and they will, you can always turn back to those standards as to how you're going to move forward and deal with that situation. So I've learned a lot about our municipality. I've learned a lot about our police force. I've learned a lot about how we operate. And how we deal with situations like that. And at every turn, I've been very proud to know what we've done historically in the city of Goose Creek and what we do now. But I would, you know, I don't know that I've changed a whole lot on how I operate or how I try to lead or communicate, other than I see what we do and I see how that can work in other areas. I serve on the board of the Municipal Association of South Carolina. And I only bring that up to say what we do is, there are 271 municipalities in South Carolina.
Right.
Not all of them have the resources of the city of Goose Creek or city of Charleston or Columbia. Not all of them have the professional staff that we're able to afford. And so the Municipal Association provides that level of that's those standards to raise everybody up and to offer that service. Well, an accreditation process for everybody's police force would probably do a lot of the same thing. And so we've done a lot to promote those kind of things. I've done a lot to promote those kind of things with the governor and with our legislative delegation and the like, after sort of realizing what we do well and what I think would be easier solutions to law enforcement reform.
Well, Mayor Habib, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking time out. We know things are kind of crazy. All the mayors here are busy, so we really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll be back after another word from one of our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Mary Barano, franchise owner of Spherion Staffing. We've been in this market for 26 years, and I've been an owner for 20. The big question right now is, are there jobs? Yes, there are jobs, there are careers, and everybody is working hard to create a safe, well-planned, sanitized work environment. Yesterday alone, we received 60 job openings between 5 customers. So if you're looking for short-term, long-term, or a career, please come to Spherion. We would love to help you find your next path of success.
I'm here with the Mayor of North Charleston, Keith Summey, properly distanced, I might add.
Yes.
And good thing about having the mayors on the show is we don't have to do any interviews and say, who are you, and resume kind of stuff, so we can jump right into the questioning.
No problem.
So I'm going to start out and just, with the first question of, we just had a tough year so far here in 2020 and lots going on, and just to check in and, how's the city going? It's
a challenge. It's like it is for every local government, state government, and federal government, but it's also a challenge for every individual. We're sort of in a position where we've got to still provide the essential services, although we know our income is lower. My grandson was saying the other day, he's 11 and a very bright child. Poppy, how does the federal government keep sending all these stimulus things? And I said, well, son, they print money. Poppy doesn't print money in North Charleston. So we've been having to adjust a lot of the way we operate so that we can manage the best we can off of the funds that we have. This is one of those things when you realize why you have an undesignated fund balance to take care of you during trying times. But you know, our employees are as upbeat as they can possibly be. We keep up with them very closely. I get a report every day on how many are out awaiting testing results or what have you. We opened our daycare, more camp program, back up so that we could accommodate a number of the children that our employees have, so that they didn't have any way else for them to be cared for. But we have run into issues with that. We had one group where we had 3 or 4 that ended up with the virus, because we can control the environment we're in, but we can't control the environment they're in when they're not with us. But the morale of our workforce has been very good, especially in the law enforcement and fire side, which are have to work. We have people out there every day, and we're just meeting things head on. Every day's a new day. New challenges come up, but that's what good management does. They deal with the challenges that are there, and we continue to move forward. I have an excellent staff that works very closely with me. My management style is one that is sort of loose. Don't ask me what to do, tell me what you think we should do, and then I'll say whether I agree with you or not. That's why you get paid to be a manager. And so that's been working very well for us. It's a tough time for everybody, and I think that that's something that in whatever workplace you're in has to be dealt with. It's different than what it was 6 months ago, and hopefully in 6 months it'll be different again. But we've just got to deal with it. This is not something that you can run and hide your head in the sand. You deal with it, but you have to still keep moving forward. Instead of, we can't hide from it, we got to deal with it.
On the revenue side, any relief in sight from state or federal funds that you're anticipating?
The only thing that we have been able to recoup so far, when we first started, all employees pretty well left except emergency responder employees had to come in and work. I was paying them an additional $250 a week. In the law enforcement side, we were able to recoup a little over $200,000 for the first 30 days. We cut it off after the 30 days. But we were able to recoup on the police side. We weren't able to on the fire side. But that was some help. But you know, I have worked to create a city that is self-sustainable as possible without property tax. When I became mayor, the property tax was probably somewhere between 65 and 70% of our budget. And now it's about 45% of the budget because we've built up through the hotel, motel accommodations fees, food and beverage tax, retail sales tax, business license fees, things of that nature. Well, those are based on what those businesses are doing. So we are seeing a downturn, substantial downturn in income coming in from those. So we are adjusting where we can. We had to change our budget before it was adopted for July. No pay increases were given this year. And this is only maybe the second time in the 26 years I've been mayor that we've had to do that. but our employees understand, and right now they just appreciate they're also getting paid.
You know, unlike the Great Recession, the whole COVID-19, it's a healthcare crisis with economic implications, right? So, you know, the region bounced back, I think, pretty well after the Great Recession. You know, crystal ball, just for a minute, what do you think's in store for the region in the short and long term?
I think short term we're going to see a continuation of lost revenue. And I think that's going to be because of the inability for people to be able to travel. We're a tourism community. And even though the draw is areas other than North Charleston, we get some of the advantage of that through hotel, motel accommodations, shopping, restaurants, things of that nature. So all of us are going to feel that hit. We're just going to have to adjust to it. How long that's going to last, I don't think any of us really know. All of us hope and pray that it's for the short term, but we're not sure how long a term it's going to be. I pray every night when I go to bed that there's some form of test that comes out, but not only the test, there's some form of application of how we deal with this virus to get it under control. And we can encourage folks to do everything to be safe and what have you. There's a group of people that always thinks that they're don't have to worry about those type of things, but we're seeing a sort of even disbursement of who is getting it now, age-wise. So I think that is opening some more eyes, and people that I see are being more precautious. I was glad to see stores like Walmart and Sam's now mandate that you wear. And that's what we've been trying to do, is get the business to understand, because nobody has the manpower to enforce this. But if it's your business and you enforce it, then it helps us to get a better control of activity.
Has the city been doing any work with the small and medium-sized businesses here in North Charleston?
We have been backing them any way we can to get in touch with the right people to look for the funding that is available through the federal government, although I think a lot of that's going to be going away. But it's unfortunately, the ones you read about are the larger businesses that are getting more relief. The smaller businesses just don't have the expertise or the staff that is there that knows how to be savvy enough to get these programs going. So when they contact us, we're sending them to organizations that are set up to try to help them, because they're the ones that will, that truly need relief. My greatest fear is not that we will lose a lot of large operations, large industries. We've seen some large corporations that are saying now they're closing, but they were on that brink prior to this occurring. The small business operator, they don't have the reserve funds established a lot of times. They can go for 30 days, but we're now into the 5th month and don't see any end yet. So I encourage people to utilize these businesses to the best you can, even if it's curb pickup or delivery to the home or what have you. We have used a lot of food delivery operations therefore we're not going out into it, but we're still patronizing those businesses to try to keep them afloat as much as possible.
And switching gears a little bit, just to the recent social unrest, civil unrest caused by social injustice and whatever, and had some pretty tragic things going on during that period. What did you personally learn, and what is the city doing now different because of that?
We've been pretty good response from the folks that have been trying to express themselves through events. The first one that we had got a little out of control. We got it under control very quickly to let them know you have the rights to protest, you have the rights to assemble, and we will work with you to protect you while you're doing that. But you have certain guidelines that you have to follow, and as long as you do, we will have the space for you. We'll help set up space for you, but just as long as you go by the safety guidelines that have to be there, then you don't have any issue with us. We probably have 2 to 3 gatherings still a week, some small, some mid-size, but when they do, they contact us and we work with them to make sure that they're safe and that there's nothing going on that's going to create conflict.
Mm-hmm. This is a fantasy question, but let's pretend there's nothing wrong, right? You know, we were all working on the region as a you know, I think a pretty good team. The region had come together working on transportation and all of these other issues. If we weren't dealing with the coronavirus, what would you be doing right now? What would your focus be?
Well, we were fixing to get into a program where each of the council members had a number of speed humps that were going to be allowed to put in their district on city streets. We can't do them on state streets without state approval. And we had actually, in the new budget, had allocated monies for each council member to do that. And they were very disappointed in the fact that we had to pull those out because the monies are having to go to daily operational costs. Building more community centers. I mean, we've got one of the nicest aquatic centers in the state of South Carolina ready to open. It's right in front of Fort Dorchester High School, project we did in conjunction with Dorchester 2 School District. They had appropriated $7.5 million to build an aquatic center for the schools. They were looking for someone to manage it. And so we went into a partnership with them. We put probably another $15 million into the project. And we have a climate-controlled 3-pool aquatic center that can be used for competitiveness. I always try to build something that help offset the cost of operation by bringing events in.
Yeah.
We get hotel, motel fees, food and beverage tax. Well, needless to say, that's not going as we had planned for right now. It's still going to be a great asset to the entire community for the future. We've got 2 brand new senior centers that have opened in the last 2 years that are pretty well inactive right now because of the risk to the seniors, especially coming in. We've got a brand new 3-gym complex that's open that now is being limited to how we can use it. So we've got trying times in dealing with those, but they're there, they're ready to go. We've got plans for more quality of life issues for the citizens of North Charleston and surrounding areas working together. We like to open our doors for people to enjoy what we have and quite honestly help pay the overhead costs of what we do. So it's a lot of projects. A lot of those that are in the planning process are being slowed down. We've, are in the process of getting moving on the naval base and the old housing area. Several of the houses have been remodeled. The older ones, the Admiral's house, is about to be completed. We got to get it furnished, and it will become a gathering place, but also a bed and breakfast operation for weddings. And the chapel was moved down there and done, and we've got one of the other houses that have been completed and updated with a elevator and what have you. It's eligible for bed and breakfast and for gatherings. So the old schoolhouse now is being done, which when I heard schoolhouse, I thought it would be something. It's about a 2,500 square foot building. undoubtedly only the upper echelon officers' children were educated there. But we're redoing that, and that'll probably be an office for our staff. But then we're going to be looking at selling some of the houses that are out there, creating other lots for building, but it will be a controlled environment, like a park setting, knowing that where you live, people will be walking through your neighborhood to get to the riverfront park and look at some of the history of that area. We've really been looking forward to it. Like everything else right now, the pace has slowed down, so we're just having to sit back from a managerial point and look at those things that are able to move forward right now, the costs associated with them moving forward, because we're having to designate our funds to the daily service as much as possible with the revenue shortages. But you know, I'm one of these guys that always looks for the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. So we're moving forward. We're staying as upbeat as we can. That's something I try to do with my employees, is be upbeat around them and encourage them, because people get afraid. Mm-hmm. I mean, the unknown is always most fearful thing in most of our lives. But we're going to be fine. We're going to make it through. Are there going to be some trials and tribulations along the way? Heck yeah. But we'll meet them. We'll meet them head on. And the one thing that we cannot do is quit continuing to live for tomorrow and look for what the future's going to bring. You know, I've got 4 grandchildren that I'm very interested in what their quality of life is going to be for the future. And so we have to keep, while we're looking at how do we deal with what we have right now, we can't forget tomorrow. We got to still work in that direction.
Well, Mayor Summey, thank you so much for joining us.
Always glad to.
I know you're a busy guy right now, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. And
our pleasure.
Everybody stay safe and, you know, be smart about what you do. Wear your mask. Try not to get too social, but still remember that there's that song, Tomorrow, Tomorrow, when we're looking forward to it.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the mayors for coming, and thanks once again to all of our sponsors, and a special thanks to Fox 24 for allowing us to use their studio here at the last minute. We really appreciate that, guys. We're in the midst of a double paradigm shift, a global pandemic and a call for social justice in school, businesses, and cities. What can businesses and individuals do at the intersection of health, race, and education? Hear from our panel of experts on August the 13th at our next virtual event that we're entitling Accelerating the Future. See you then.